Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker in Malay, please. Tuan Speaker, keharmonian kaum adalah tunggak asas pada kestabilan sosial dan kemakmuran Singapura. Walaupun mungkin hati kita berlainan atas dasar corakan budaya dan tradisi perkauman kita yang berlainan, bak pepatah Melayu, rambut kita sama hitam. Keamanan negara dan masyarakat mesti dipikul bahu kita dan perlu kita sanggup dan berani menjangkau ke seberang meja, saling mengenali sesama dengan lebih terdekat dan mengukir arah bersatu hati demi memastikan keamanan dan kemajuan negara. Rang undang-undang pemeliharaan keharmonian kaum ini penting demi mencegah timbulnya perasaan permusuhan dan kebencian antara kaum yang berbeza. Ia juga menjadikan satu kesalahan untuk membuat hasutan dan galakan pemecah belahan atas dasar perkauman. Ini langkah sewajarnya bagi negara kita demi memelihara keharmonian kaum, kestabilan masyarakat, perpaduan rakyat dan juga kesatuan nasional. Ia juga mewujudkan masyarakat yang adil dan saksama, yang memandang semua sama rata, tidak mengira kaum dan bangsa, dan yang memupuk sikap inklusif dan memberi penghormatan dan penghargaan kepada setiap kaum. Pentingnya rang undang-undang ini juga ialah ia menegaskan langkah-langkah yang akan mencegah pengaruh dan campur tangan asing dalam isu-isu perkauman setempat. Ia penting kerana Singapura sebagai ekonomi terbuka juga terdedah kepada dan tidak terkecuali dari pelbagai unsur dan pengaruhan luar. Apatah lagi dengan pengaruh media sosial, perlunya rang undang-undang ini bersifat holistik demi menyekat berita, naratif dan tanggapan palsu lagi berbahaya yang boleh mencetuskan salah fahaman, kebencian dan pemecah belahan antara kaum. Di Singapura, sebagai sebuah negara yang masih muda, di mana nenek moyang kita ramai merupakan pendatang dan pedagang terdahulu dan di mana sejarah keluarga-keluarga dan tradisi kaum-kaum kita mungkin masih terdapat banyak persamaan dari segi sebahagian sejarah, budaya dan kaum negara China, negara India dan negeri-negeri Nusantara Melayu. Dalam 60 tahun kemerdekaan Singapura ini juga terdapat banyak lagi keunikan dan konteks setempat yang perlu dipertimbangkan rakyat bersama. Tidak boleh kita berikan laluan dan peluang bagi pendapat-pendapat yang berunsur ekstrim, yang berputik diskriminasi dan hasutan perkauman untuk berakar dan berbaur di masyarakat kita. Ini tidak bermakna kita elak dari meraihkan identiti perkauman masing-masing yang amat kaya dengan kepelbagaian dan sejarah, ataupun malu berbincang secara jujur tentang isu-isu berkepentingan pada setiap kaum. Bagi segala apa yang dibenarkan berkembang di masyarakat kita yang berbilang kaum dan bangsa ini, perlulah kita mengambil kira konteks, budaya, tata susila, sejarah, keharmonian dan juga perundangan tempatan. Mr. Speaker, in English, please. I have a few clarifications in three broad parts for the Minister as part of this proposed bill. Firstly, in Part 3, restraining orders against racial content in Clause 8, it is noted that the Minister may make a racial content restraining order against a person if the Minister is satisfied that several thresholds have been met in relation to an act that causes feelings of enmity, hatred, ill will or hostility between different races in Singapore, or that incites, instigates or encourages another person to commit such an act. May I clarify specifically in the instance that a person is likely to commit or is attempting to commit the specific acts, could the Minister provide examples of when such a threshold is crossed and how this may differ from having an intent without any action alone? This is to reassure us that sufficient and reasonable basis for a restraining order is met before it is meted under these powers. Secondly, in Part 4, measures against foreign influence, under Division 2, designation of entities, Clause 15A, where the competent authority may designate an entity where the primary objects, purposes, or activities include representing or promoting social, economic, political, educational, linguistic, cultural, or other interests, or discussing any issue relating to any race in Singapore. Would this also possibly include well-meaning ground-up initiatives registered community-based organizations, or registered charities that seek to support specific racial groups as part of each community's efforts to also uplift their own? Would ethnic-based self-help groups like the Chinese Development Assistance Council, Yayasan Mendaki, SINDA, and the Eurasian Association also fall within this definition of such potential entities as per Clause 15A? Would this be a rather wide and encompassing definition that needs better scoping and specificity for the purposes of this bill? And instead of encouraging ground-up in community efforts, could this instead raise concerns and prevent people from stepping forward to contribute more fervently towards building the social, economic, educational, linguistic, and cultural interests of particular aspects of a race or community, which is really the rich diversity we want to preserve and encourage in Singapore and also allow to flourish? Lastly, also echoing what some of the honourable members have mentioned earlier, in Part 6, offences relating to race under offence of inciting enmity against persons distinguished by race, etc., in Clause 40, I wonder if this in any way could affect our arts community in their good work today. We agree, and I'm sure with a resounding consensus in this House, that we are firmly and flatly against any form of intentional incitement of ill will and hostility across racial lines. This I have also outlined in rather unequivocal terms in the Malay portion of my speech earlier. I appreciate, however, that the arts is and can be a powerful medium for expression of differing and diverse views and sometimes emotive opinions, serving as a vehicle for social commentary, political critique, personal reflection, and advocacy. Sometimes the arts asks inconvenient questions, presses on hot-button issues, and could upset people. In light of how Clause 40 is worded, could the Ministry reassure the arts community and its enthusiasts, especially those in the visual, literary, and performing art forms, that even on sensitive topics relating to race, where sometimes there could be questions or challenges about racial stereotypes and identities, these would still be permitted within the remit of artistic license and what is considered reasonable? My view is that some latitude should be given for the relevant art forms to express views, to ask the hard questions, to challenge narratives, and to inspire change. In fact, when done well and tastefully, society would be more cohesive, more thoughtful, and more reflective in the longer term, even though it could stir uncomfortable emotions and disdain in the short term. Mr. Speaker, my points notwithstanding, I rise in support of the bill.